UFC Houston was a very good card, full of nasty KOs and banger fights. Strickland getting his first finish in a long time, Uros Medic knocking out Geoff Neal in a brutal manner, and Costa being the first guy to knock Delija out, and so many more. But we need to talk about the main event, man, because Sean Strickland just reminded everyone exactly who he is. Coming into this fight, a lot of people, including me, were questioning whether the jab and teep style will be enough, you know, for the relentless pressure grappler like Fluffy Hernandez. Hernandez was riding a serious momentum, which is something I talked about. 8-fight win streak, constant pressure, cardio for days, a guy who makes fights ugly and drags you into deep waters. But what we saw in Houston, that was vintage Sean Strickland. And not just vintage, a little bit evolved. Round 1 was razor close. Round 1 was extremely close. You could have scored it either way, in my opinion. Both guys landed clean. Hernandez tried to close the distance early and test the wrestling. That was the big question, because Strickland consistently defended the takedown, and he did very well. Strickland's takedown defense was sharp. He stayed balanced, framed well, and didn't panic when Fluffy pressured him. Hernandez had moments, but nothing dominant on the feet, honestly speaking. Strickland outclassed him. Strickland was already establishing his jab from the beginning, touching, measuring, disrupting the rhythm. Hernandez had bursts of success once in a while, but Sean's tight guard and subtle head movement made it very difficult to land clean combinations. For me, round 1 was basically a draw. Like I said, it could have gone either ways, but round 2, the adjustments were made. Round 2 is where Strickland started separating himself. The jab became the weapon, not just a range fighter, damaging tool. He was sitting down on it more, throwing it with more intention, and this was the key. He wasn't just defending and resetting like he sometimes does. He defended and fired back immediately. Every time Hernandez tried to enter, he paid for it. The teeps were landing, the body shots were landing, and historically, the body has been the issue for Fluffy, all right? Sean clearly came in prepared to attack that weakness, and round 2 was clearly Strickland's. Now, going into round 3, the momentum shifted more. By round 3, you could see the confidence growing. Strickland was flowing, all right? He was walking Hernandez down, the pressure flipped. Fluffy was still dangerous, you know, still trying to create chaos, but the accumulation was adding up, man. The jab damage, the body work, the pace. Then came the knee to the body. Strickland caught him clean, and that was the beginning of the end, man. You could see Hernandez's reaction instantly from that knee. Sean didn't hesitate. He poured it on. Combinations, pressure, controlled aggression, and eventually he got a TKO. His first finish in ages. Yes, people criticize Strickland for fighting safe, not going to decisions, for not taking risks. But in this fight, he proved the jab and teeps were enough. But he also showed an evolution, all right? He sat down on his punches, like I said. He invested on the body. He capitalized on openings. And honestly speaking, with Strickland getting a TKO, it reminded me about his fight with Adesanya when he almost got a finish, but he sat back a little bit. This time, he went all out. This is the best Strickland has looked since beating Adesanya. And here's something else that stood out to me. Before the fight, right? Strickland was playing the heel, staring the controversy, saying wild things, almost got himself canceled. But after, he actually showed nothing but respect to Hernandez. He praised Hernandez, said he was a bigger man that he could ever be. And that was mature, all right? It was respectable. Credit where credit is due. It was a nice showing for Strickland. He performed well and put his money where his mouth is. Now, what's next for Strickland? This was a massive win. He keeps his number 3 ranking in the middleweight division. With a finish like this, the stock rises, all right? Does he fight Hamza next? I don't see it happening immediately, but one more win, he is absolutely in the title contention. Honestly, you could argue he deserves a title fight right away, and I wouldn't be mad at it. He looked sharp, he looked confident, he looked dangerous, and he's been calling Hamza out for a while. He called him out in this fight. I'm actually interested in seeing that. I mean, of course, I don't need to explain why Hamza wrestling is way different from Fluffy's wrestling, but it's an interesting matchup either ways. For the co-main event, Uros Medic versus Geoff Neal. Crazy fight. Round 1, left hook right to the temple from Uros Medic. Lights out. 3 straight first round knockouts. And he said he was gonna do it, and he did exactly that. Geoff Neal, on the other hand, he's having a rough stretch, man. Knocked out by Protest, now knocked out by Medic. I hate saying it, but we might have to start looking at the end of Geoff Neal's run. Medic just launched himself into the conversation at welterweight, which is very interesting. Next fight, Danny gave us his Melquizael Costa. Costa made a statement. The first man to knock out Dan Ige. Spinning back kick inside the first 2 minutes. Perfect timing. Dropped him. Followed up with a TKO. Costa is now on a 6-fight win streak and improving every time we see him. He called out Diego Lopez, which is bold, but you know, that might be too big of a leap right now. Costa is still officially a name to watch out at featherweight though. Great win for Costa. Serghei Spivac versus Ante Delija. That was a competitive matchup. Spivac controlled round 1 with clean jabs, early damage. Delija was bloody quickly. Round 2 flipped though. Delija increased the volume, landed heavy shots, and forced Spivac to shell up. Round 3 was gritty, clinch exchanges, and a late takedown attempt, but back and forth striking, and it was very close, but I think the right person won. Spivac proved he was a better fighter. Jacobe Smith versus Josiah Harrell. Well, this fight didn't last long. Harrell stepped in late notice. Respect for that. The guy went through a lot to get to this fight, but Jacobe Smith showed he's legit, man. Harrell landed a takedown early, but Smith reversed it beautifully into a crucifix position and unloaded brutal ground and pound. Honestly, the ref could have stepped in a little bit earlier. Smith called out Kevin Holland. That would be a fun match, but Holland's already booked against Randy Brown. Either way, I will be keeping my eye on Smith. I'm becoming a fan and I see potential in that guy. Michel Pereira versus Zachary was another fun fight, aside from the part where Pereira was faking a low blow. Dirty tricks right there. This fight was chaos, man. Bloody, wild, entertaining. Pereira fought like, you know, the Pereira, explosive and unpredictable, while Reese tried to match the energy, but he paid for it, to be honest. By round 3, both guys slowed down, but it turned into a slugfest. It was a split decision, which I was surprised, but Pereira win, and that's what mattered. Chidi and Njokuani versus Carlos Leal. This was the best fight on the prelims card, to be honest. Non-stop striking for 15 minutes, absolute war. Leal stayed slightly ahead on volume, and I think he won rightfully so. Nora versus Joselyne Edwards. Edwards dominated, big body slam, and broke Cornolle's arm or her shoulder, secured a submission. Man, Joselyne is quietly putting together a strong one. She's on like a 6-fight win streak right now, which is a big deal for her weight division. I think it's time to put her against a legit ranked contender. She has been impressive and she's winning me over. And then we had Ramiz Brahimaj versus Punahele Soriano. Close fight. Soriano dug deep, man. Showed he was more well-rounded. He had more well-rounded skills and he edged out a decision. Competitive, but you know, nothing too special. But yeah, UFC Houston delivered, man, which kind of sucks because it was a 50-50 on if I was gonna watch this card in person. But yeah, I decided not to because, you know, I would rather go to a stacked card if I'm gonna pay to go watch it in person. But this was a good card, man. It really delivered. If I had to score it, I would give it a maybe 8/10. You know, a lot of finishes, a lot of fun fights, and again, I was so wrong with the main event prediction, man. I underestimated Sean Strickland still being in shape, still being at the top of the game at this level. You know, I always had this feeling that he was fighting just to be a fighter. He was no longer hungry, but man, he looked good, man. Like I said, looked as good as he did since he fought Adesanya. And now when you look at it, this is one of the things I did say in my video. Sean Strickland has only fought the best. I mean, he has one of the best fight resumes in the middleweight division. This man lost to Alex Pereira and lost to DDP. Those are power household names to lose to. And then back in the day, he lost to Kamaru Usman. I mean, these are legends in the game already. It's an impressive resume that he's stacking together. And even though he was already above Fluffy Hernandez in the rankings, by the caliber of fighters that they fought, by experience, this was still a huge win for him because Fluffy was a tough opponent. Fluffy was a contender who would have definitely been in talks to fight Khamzat Chimaev if he won this fight. And now it's a legit call to say, yeah, Strickland should fight for the belt against Khamzat. And personally, I'm actually interested in seeing that fight. But yeah, UFC Houston delivered. Strickland proved he's still elite. Medic announced himself as a knockout threat. Costa shook up featherweight. And we saw multiple rising names make statements, man. The division's shifting, the contenders are coming. And after the performance, it's hard to deny Sean Strickland the title picture, like I said. Oh, and of course, during the fight, they did announce a big fight. Sean Brady versus Joaquin Buckley. That is an amazing fight. I cannot wait to watch that. I will be making a separate video talking about that fight and breaking down, making predictions for that, of course. But yeah, that's a fun fight for welterweight. But let me know in the comments, do you think Sean Strickland deserves a title shot after this performance, or you think maybe one more win? Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think Fluffy Hernandez still has a potential to be a contender, a title contender one day, or if this is the beginning of a downward spiral. Let me know in the comments. Please go ahead and like this video, hype the video, all right, and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Peace.